to this, especially the Eli Manning side, Kim. How did he handle his demotion?
You know, he's been such an example so far, and Eli vows to continue to be one for Daniel Jones. When we walked into the locker room for media availability, Patrick, Eli Manning was waiting at his locker. That's not a surprise. If he was going to talk today, I was relatively certain that is how he would handle it. He answered, I don't know how many questions. At one point, he was asked about the idea he got just the 2 weeks of this season to essentially prove himself. He said, you can wish all you want for more than that. That's how it played out. In some ways, Eli Manning added, I signed up for this. In other words, when Daniel Jones was drafted, he knew what was coming. He just didn't know when. Eli Manning also said at one point, this is Eli talking, I'm not dying. The season's not over. I'm the second string quarterback of the New York Giants. He added he has to learn how to run a scout team. Daniel Jones and Eli Manning's lockers are next to each other. You can hear a little bit of Eli Manning's way when Daniel Jones speaks. I think that Daniel Jones has been very smart in his approach with Eli Manning. He's listened to everything he's said. He's taken all of his advice. He has played very, very well in preseason, and he's won over his teammates. And there's a reason that Eli Manning vowed to help Daniel Jones any way he can. Number one, that's Eli Manning's way. He says he'd never want to be a distraction. And number two, I think Daniel Jones has shown him he can be a worthy successor.
And Kim, as you said, that Eli said he knew it was coming. He just didn't know when. What led Pat Shurmur to make the change now?
You know, listening to Pat Shurmur both Monday and today, Patrick, I think he had that decision made in his mind by the time the game ended Sunday at MetLife Stadium, the loss to the Buffalo Bills. He made mention of the fact that the Giants didn't make plays that were there against the Bills defense. Clearly a more mobile quarterback. Now, he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. But a more mobile quarterback might be something that Pat Shurmur believes can run his offense very effectively, can challenge defenses a little bit differently. But to take you through the timeline very briefly here, when Pat Shurmur talked to us Monday, I believe he already had the decision completely made, but he had not checked all of the boxes in terms of talking to John Mara, Steve Tisch, and Dave Gettleman. After that was done, he spoke to both quarterbacks Tuesday morning, and that's when the Giants issued the release, giving us the news that 16-year quarterback Eli Manning had been benched, and Daniel Jones will start Sunday against Tampa Bay.
And Eli and Daniel both saying he brought them in separately to tell them each one at a time. Right. Definitely momentous news to each of them for certainly different reasons. Kim Jones in East Rutherford with the Giants. Thanks, Kim. So this is what Daniel Jones is going to have to try to live up to. He's the all-time leading winner at the quarterback position for the Giants. More completions, passing yards, and passing touchdowns than anybody else in New York football Giants history. Let's bring in a former Giants quarterback, the actual starter back in 2004, before Eli Manning takes over. Kurt Warner joining us now here on NFL Network. I'm sure you felt a certain way about the timing then, I believe week 10, 2004. Kurt, how do you feel about the timing now for Eli going to the bench?
Well, I tell you what, I didn't like the timing of it, because I just feel like there really wasn't much of an opportunity for anything. Going into the season with the way things played out in training camp, I think we all knew that this was going to be a struggling football team. It is all the issues on the outside, defensively, they didn't have those pieces, OBJ not being there, that this was going to be a struggle. And so I'm kind of dumbfounded why they even started Eli at the beginning of the season anyways. You were basically saying to him, you really had no chance, and we didn't really give you a chance because you played pretty good football, but there's just not enough around you, so we're going to make this change in week 2. And so, disappointed by, I think, how it played out and the nature of it, although I completely understand that if you feel like your team is not in a position to succeed, to make a playoff run, you want to prepare for the future as soon as possible, and that's moving to Daniel Jones. I just thought the way it played out and to start Eli Manning and not really give him much of an opportunity and then kind of yank that rug out from underneath him after week 2 is really disappointing for a guy that's done as much for the organization as Eli has.
Yeah, Golden Tate's still not back from suspension. Eli never got to see him as a starter. So you mentioned some of those issues on the outside, Kurt. What can Daniel Jones do differently to move it all, the offense at all, or is it all about just bringing a spark?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's about bringing a spark. I don't know what's really going to change because Daniel Jones is built a lot like Eli Manning is built. Now we know he's a little more of an athlete, a younger guy. They could probably add a few things in there from that perspective, but I don't think their offense is going to drastically change. They're going to be a drop-back passing team going through Saquon Barkley, so you're going to have to count on your receivers on the outside, which are still a bunch of unknown guys until those guys get healthy. You're going to have to count on your defense to play better than they have these first couple weeks and give a young quarterback a chance. And probably going to have to lean heavily on Saquon Barkley, which, again, they haven't done a whole lot the first 2 weeks, even with Eli in there. But I don't see their offense in structure changing dramatically with Daniel Jones in there because I think he's a very similar type quarterback to Eli Manning.
Let's go over to the Saints and the Seahawks. Sean Payton was perhaps playing coy earlier. He was asked about starting Teddy Bridgewater, giving Taysom Hill the ball less because he's the backup. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reporting he's still in a walking boot. He did not practice today. Ian says it does not look good for him playing against the Cardinals coming up on Sunday. Mason Rudolph will be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger is out for the season. His first career start in replacement of the two-time Super Bowl champion. As for Teddy Bridgewater, we don't know if he's going to be the starting quarterback. Sean Payton being coy, suggesting it could be Taysom Hill, perhaps, that gets the start. Either way, we expect Teddy Bridgewater to make his second start since 2015. Luke Falk will go against the Patriots. This is because Trevor Siemian out for the season with torn ligaments in his left ankle, came on a hit from Myles Garrett. Starting debut against Bill Belichick for Luke Falk. And then there's Daniel Jones, will be the new starting quarterback for the New York Giants. He will go against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Taking over for Eli Manning, we heard from the new quarterback earlier today.
I was excited. I think, certainly excited for the opportunity. Coach called me up to his office. We had that conversation and obviously a unique circumstance but excited for the opportunity.
Ready for the opportunity?
Yeah, I think, I certainly feel good about, how far I've come, and my preparation and my progress since I got here in the spring and through camp, through these first couple weeks. So, we'll try to make sure we have the best week we can, and I'll certainly do all I can to be as prepared as possible. But I think I feel ready, and certainly looking forward to the opportunity.
Being the starting quarterback entails a lot more than just calling the huddle and everything. Did you address the team or talk to them or the offense at all?
I didn't. Not as a group. I've certainly had a number of conversations, and I think like I said, our job is to focus on Tampa Bay to make sure we're as prepared as possible as a group.
What was that like talking to Eli since the change happened?
I think yesterday when when Coach Shermer told me and obviously Eli as well, I think we had a conversation and as y'all would expect, as anyone who knows Eli would expect, he was nothing but supportive of me and obviously I understand the circumstance and it's a difficult one, but he's was very supportive of me and I can't say enough about who he is as a person, as a teammate, and he's been that way since I've gotten here. So we had that conversation and then we went about our Tuesday preparing and watching film like we have the first 2 weeks. So I'm certainly very, very grateful and appreciative of his support since I've gotten here.
Daniel, just to clarify, you had a conversation
Let's get back to East Rutherford. That's where Kim Jones is there. Then there was not some success in other spots. Bridgewater struggled against a good Rams defense. We'll see what the Saints look like with a week of preparations ahead of their game against the Seattle Seahawks. We go to Washington now. The Saints have decided to stay on the West Coast. Omar Ruiz is there at the University of Washington with the team. What's the latest on Drew Brees' thumb, Omar?
Drew Brees has also remained on the West Coast, but he is in Los Angeles where he'll have surgery later today on that injured right thumb. Sean Payton would not speculate on a timetable for his return, but he did say that IR, designated to return, is not in the plan right now. So that 6 to 8 week recovery window we've all been hearing about seems to be in play, with Brees not going to the injured reserve list.
And so, Omar, how are the Saints going to handle this quarterback situation going into the game on the road in Seattle?
Well, Sean Payton said he'll have both Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill ready to play. When he was asked about Hill and his backup role, Payton saying, "You're assuming Hill is the backup." We just heard from Pete Carroll, who said that the Seahawks will be prepared for everything. He says because of Hill's toughness and the packages that Payton uses him in, he is a problem. Of course, we've seen Teddy Bridgewater start for the Saints in this offense. Week 17 last year, a loss to the Panthers. Sean Payton saying that's not a fair evaluation of him in this offense. Alvin Kamara wasn't playing. They had two backup tackles playing. The Seahawks have also seen Teddy Bridgewater. If you remember the 2015 season in the playoffs, Teddy and the Vikings had the Seahawks on the ropes in that cold weather classic on the University of Minnesota campus before the Seahawks, as they so often do, made that fourth quarter comeback. Blair Walsh missed field goal. Seahawks get the win. But certainly, Saints will continue their on-field preparations here at the University of Washington campus as they get ready for the Seahawks here on Sunday.
Perhaps a little gamesmanship from Sean Payton there, and innocent Vikings fans catching a Blair Walsh stray in the preview for the Saints-Seahawks game. Tough for them. Omar Ruiz there in Washington ahead of that matchup between the Saints and the Seahawks. So Drew Brees goes down to injury. Ben Roethlisberger goes down to injury. Eli Manning is benched. So who's the last man standing there? That's Phillip Rivers. Shout out to J.P. Lossman, who works his way onto the graphic there. Ears burning. Wherever you are, JP, we still appreciate you, man. Shout out to Tulane as well. Each week of the NFL's 100th season, we journey into the NFL Films vault with a 100-second montage featuring memorable moments, gridiron greats, fantastic finishes, and so much more. This week, we celebrate some of the most iconic coaches in NFL history.
There's a gleam, man. There's a gleam. Let's get the gleam.